Hello, everyone. Welcome to the WookieCast. Today we're sitting down with Jack Parker, who puppeteered Pip in The Acolyte. Thank you so much for sitting down with us today.
Yeah, my pleasure. Always good to have a chat about it all.
I'd love to get into what was your first introduction to the Star Wars franchise?
I mean, me and my brother were absolutely obsessed with Star Wars when we were kids. We had all the figurines and kind of imagined ourselves in the worlds. So from a very early age, I was probably four when kind of first watched the original trilogy, and then was just sort of obsessed from that point. So then, kind of getting the call to come in and audition for a character in Star Wars was like an insane dream come true for me.
Do you remember the first Star Wars film that you saw in theaters?
Yeah, so actually they when they remastered the originals, our local cinema, which sat about 20 or 30 people, showed them. So yeah, it was the original trilogy back in the day. And then obviously remember going to see Phantom Menace when I was a bit bigger um, in the cinema. Uh, yeah, loved it. We had them on VHS and just watched them religiously as kids. But then
Yeah,
like
sure.
the big screen was amazing, amazing as well.
So, career-wise, puppeteering is a pretty interesting job, kind of almost a niche of a sort. What inspired you to take that career path?
Yeah, it's a kind of yeah, it's an odd niche, isn't it? It's one of those things when people, you're at a party or something, and people say, "Oh, so what do you do?" And I'm almost sort of hesitant to say because it sort of kicks off this big conversation about puppeteer. Okay, that's a weird choice. But yeah, I trained as an actor. I was always interested in storytelling of different descriptions. Trained as an actor, and then ended up doing a few jobs as a puppeteer. Got hired as a puppeteer. I sort of was just sort of blown away by the magic of it. Because for me, there's this amazing kind of thing that you get with puppetry where adults can watch a puppet, and even though they know it's not a real thing, it's made of wood and plastic and paint and all that sort of stuff. Um, but that they if you get it right, they watch this creature come to life, and it's like real kind of magic because they're watching this inanimate object become animate and then investing in it. So that's what really kind of hooked me into it. And then of course, uh, the film industry in the UK is has sort of blown up over the last 10, 15 years. And so suddenly there are all these opportunities to go into film and kind of be part of these big franchises and do all that sort of exciting movie stuff. So it just sort of naturally progressed, really. I never kind of imagined myself being
Going,
a
I
puppet.
want to be a puppeteer when I grow up.
Yeah, no, it was
None of
never that.
that.
I always wanted to be an actor or helicopter pilot. But but yeah, it was a sort of natural progression from yeah, because it's storytelling in it, in its essence, and that's what excites me about it, really.
So, how did you first come to be involved with the Acolyte? Around when would you say you kind of joined the project?
Pretty late on. When did we start shooting? We started shooting something like November, and I think I first sort of heard about it in the September. And I got a call from a guy called Derek Arnold who works for Neil Scanlon. And they were kind of casting the net quite wide in terms of looking for new people because they have this amazing team of people, of all descriptions, designers and makers, and their workshop is uh, this extraordinary place where there's just racks of Mandalorian helmets and bits of R2D2s about the place, and lots of people squirreling away doing this beautiful detailed work on alien heads and droids and that sort of stuff. um but uh yeah, I think the brief was that they wanted to kind of bring new people in, and I was lucky enough to be on that list for coming in. And then as the process went on, it sort of got whittled down essentially, and then it ended up we got to meet Amandla, and we got to just with our so I had 2 weeks with Pip, a prototype of Pip to kind of build that character and learn about him and kind of put my mark on that character. and then we got to take that in with Amandla, and then we just sort of messed around for an hour together, and off the back of that, she was like, "Yeah, that's the Pip I want." So um, I was just super excited. But I think the chemistry for Amanda and I like kicked off straight away. You know that relationship that Pip and Osha have. Um, it just felt like it happened in that moment when they first met in that room, um, and I had a good feeling about it because I thought, well, this feels right. This feels like a really good dynamic between the two, and luckily she thought so too. So yeah.
I guess that is kind of important with even though it's an inanimate, I guess, prop sort of, you have to kind of try to bring it to life as much as you
Yeah,
can.
yeah. I mean, I spent I didn't like ever bringing him on set when he wasn't live. So as much as possible, between takes and when everything was setting up and all that sort of stuff, I tried as much as possible not to have him, powered down essentially. So even if he was sat there in the cradle or between takes or whatever, he's on Osha's hip. I would just keep him alive. So I'm controlling him with uh, an RC controller. Um, so I'd just kind of keep him alive through that thing, so that it's not a kind of relationship that happens and when the cameras are rolling, but it's a relationship that's there the whole time, and then the cameras start rolling, and it's a continuation. And I think Amanda really liked that. Um, yeah, we messed around a lot on set. Those two. It's funny because obviously she's got this relationship with this little droid, and I'm sort of 10 feet away watching a monitor, sort of with my little stick, sort of keeping him alive and making her laugh and that sort of stuff. Um, so yeah, it's a funny kind of relationship. But I think it really worked. I think that way of working was good, and it certainly was more interesting for me because I was just lapping up every second of being on that show as a fan, and I sort of didn't want to take breaks. I wanted to just keep it rolling and keep playing in that world because to me it's just such an exciting world to be a part of. So yeah.
They must have built him with kind of like a battery life, I'm sure, but did he ever accidentally die on set once or twice?
Uh, well, no, well, the team. So obviously, Pip had a fairly hefty entourage of people who would give him maintenance and switch batteries in and out and all of that sort of stuff. So no, like, um, he worked incredibly well the whole way because you'd think it was a long shoot. It was 4 or 5 months, I think, of shooting, and we were on set virtually every day through that period, and he takes quite a battering. He's in the waist clip thing while she's running around and doing stunts and all of this sort of stuff. He takes an absolute hammering. But yeah, he survived it with only some minor cuts and bruises. So it's pretty good.
Acolyte was filmed in some pretty beautiful places. Did you have any favorite filming location?
I mean, we spent a few weeks in Madeira, and I don't know if have you ever been?
I haven't, but I've seen the photos. It's
It's
beautiful.
it's nuts. It's such a beautiful part of the world. I think people call it the Hawaii of Europe, um, although it's off the coast of Africa. But they call it the Hawaii of Europe, and it's these giant mountains that just rise out of the sea. And particularly, we were shooting up in the national park, which has got these beautiful sort of ancient trees, and the fog was blowing in, and there were these cool like Star Wars sets that had been built up on top of this mountain, and the fog blowing in and everything. It was so atmospheric, like you could 100% believe that you were on another planet at that point. Um, yeah, that was really cool.
I'd like to circle back to around to something that you mentioned a bit earlier. You were given a prototype of Pip originally. So the first version of Pip you were introduced to, it wasn't quite the final design?
So it was the final design. So the design had been signed off before I ever got my hands on it. But I think some of the kind of obviously they design it and they make it look cool, and the director signs that off, and then obviously they've got to find ways to fit all of that tech inside and paint it. So the original prototype I had was silver, so he was unpainted because it was I think it was 3D printed in metal, which I guess is why he was kind of so hardy and great on set. So he was just the bare metal when I first picked him up, and I actually loved him in silver. I thought silver was a really cool look. And I'd spent a few weeks before we got up to shooting, like just with him in this silver state, and then suddenly he gets painted. I'm like, oh, it's a different Pip. You like it? I'd built this relationship with this character that then suddenly looked totally different. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think the paint job was awesome in the end, uh, which was Nick Terrell who designed it and
With the stickers and everything like that. Yeah.
yeah, with little kind of yeah cookies in there for everyone. Um, he's a great guy. He's amazing, and is just an absolute oracle of Star Wars knowledge. We'd get on set and there'd be discussions about, oh, can this person say this thing? Can that thing happen? Da, da, da. And Nick was so knowledgeable that by the end of the shoot, he'd get called up and they'd say, Nick, can we do this? And he'd be able to say yay or nay on these things because he's got such a kind of encyclopedic knowledge of Star Wars lore, uh, which is amazing.
In a way, you played Pip, but there was kind of almost two sides to Pip, but before, lively, a bit more of a spark, and then after where he kind of gets, I don't know, reset. So what was it like mentally trying to make sure there was a visual distinction to viewers? Like this is clearly acting different.
Yeah, we wanted to kind of we aimed to kind of make that distinction clear. We when he gets reset, we called him Zombie Pip. That was his name on set. So they'd call for Zombie Pip, and yeah, it was interesting because in terms of his character, he's sort of he's had this brain wipe, he's had this kind of factory reset, and he's gone from this chipper, excitable, sassy, bit rude, to almost felt like he was a little bit sort of lobotomized um, after the reset, and I kind of always felt a little sad when it was the zombie Pip stuff because that kind of really that lovely character that Pip has was sort of all gone, and it's this kind of zombie, kind of slow, uh, methodical, more on the side of the kind of robot brain, AI brain, rather than something that felt more organic with before he gets reset. But yeah, so I always felt a bit funny when he was switched, but hopefully that came across. Hopefully that came across.
It definitely did noticeable because he was just a bit slower, more of like an emotionless. Even though droids,
Yeah,
they have emotions. So,
yeah,
uh,
exactly. Yeah.
yeah. Um, so as part of that, you got to work with several of the cast members. Do you have any favorite moments from filming that you'd like to share?
Um. Uh. We had um. We had a lot of fun. I mean, those guys were amazing. Uh. Amandla i- is an extraordinary performer and sort of, really held the whole production together with her kind of dedication and talent and all of that stuff. But there's just a lot of, I can't really think of anything off the top of my head actually. But a lot of just really good times. And, over the course of a shoot like that, you get so close with everyone. And it was a very loving and fun and kind of sassy shoot. Really, there's a lot of Mickey taking and yeah, just a lot of laughter and yeah, it was a lovely time. It was one of those productions where everything came together. We're in this beautiful environments, uh, telling a cool story with just lovely people. So it was beautiful start to finish.
If you could portray or puppeteer one character in the future for Star Wars, who would it be? Or what type of species or anything like that?
I've always wanted to be a stormtrooper ever since I was a little boy. I just thought they were the coolest. I mean, Darth Vader, big Darth Vader fan, but I always wanted to be a stormtrooper. Um, but yeah, I think in the animatronic world, it would be really fun because obviously with Pip, he beeps and boops and squeaks and stuff. But I'd love to kind of get my teeth into a character uh, that talks, a baddie, really. I'd love to play a baddie.
Um, Something mentioned when I was talking to Nick was that Pip's performance was slightly based on your daughter. I was curious if you could talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I went into audition, my daughter was about a month old, um, and I'd had that time off with her. Um, and for me, y I was thinking about how can I kind of create this character? Who's this character? And what struck me about the character was he's actually very vulnerable, because he doesn't have much ability to move himself. Like he moves his head, and otherwise he gets carted about. And I'm there kind of thinking about the character while I'm jiggling my daughter who's a month old on my shoulder and going, oh, actually, there's a lot of parallels between, you know, the real dependence that that baby has on you to look after it, but also the character that's in there already. And I thought that was similar to Pip, really. I've said it before, but the stakes are always super high for Pip because if he gets dropped or if he gets left behind, that's it. He's dead. Like he is so reliant on Osha, and that relationship then really becomes kind of mother baby in a way. But I had this amazing resource uh, there at my fingertips. My beautiful, amazing daughter, and all the way she viewed the world and the way she moved, and that influenced definitely the way he viewed the world, and his movements. Yeah, which was cool. Yeah, I was lucky that those things came together. It was a cool time.
Perfect timing, kind
It
of,
was
because
an amazing time.
it's a little bit after, so
Yeah, it
yeah.
was it was an extraordinary period of my life, really, because on the one hand, I was a new dad and I had this beautiful baby. On the other hand, I was suddenly in this Star Wars world, which is something I wanted to do my entire life. So it was yeah, it was a wonderful, wonderful period.
Is there anything that you'd say that you've kind of learned from the Acolyte that you'd like to take into future projects?
Loads, heaps. I mean, you learn so much on every job. But with the Acolyte, I really feel like I was given a lot of agency to create the character and be the character. And I think on other jobs I've done, there's more people kind of putting their ideas in and saying it should be like this, it should be like that. Da, da, da. And with this, Leslie Headland, Amanda, Neil, they all just said, "It's yours. Here it is." Um, and uh, I think, yeah, I learned to trust my instincts a lot on that job and uh, follow my gut, and that always feels good. Um, but it's definitely something I take forward. Um, is a kind of trust in that initial instinct that you get about a scene or a character, even if it's slightly contrary to the way people might think it should be played. Yeah, I could, like for instance, Pip, when as written, he's super chirpy, chipper, cheeky. But I always felt like we got that for free because he's so beautifully designed and he's cute. Um, and so like we got that for free. So my initial instinct was like I want to find the grit in this character. I want to find I don't know if it comes out in the movie in the show or what, but for me it was really important to kind of find what motivates him and what's gritty for him, and that's where the kind of dependence thing came in and was the kind of uh, driving force behind what I was doing with him because yeah, I wanted him to not just be cute. I wanted him to be he's jealous and he is a bit obsessive and you know he has these ugly sides to him, which I don't know if we see, but they were there on set.
Like he, in a way, he just genuinely really cares for her. You know,
Yeah.
aside from being dependent, he does actually care about her.
Oh
I
yeah.
gather, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely 100%. Um, loves Osha and cares about her, you know, incredibly deeply. So when it gets reset, yeah, it's kind of a sad moment. Felt like the end of an era somehow, um, for me anyway, and for Pip.
If people would like to keep up with you and your future work, what social media platforms can they find you on?
Well, I'm on Instagram, at Jack Parker. I'm on Twitter at Jack Parker Actor. Um, and otherwise, yeah, if anyone wants to ever get in touch, DM me. It's all good. I love hearing from people. But yeah,
I really appreciate you sitting down with us. It's a pleasure. Wikipedia really appreciates the insight.
hey,
Um,
it's great to chat with you.